Hi guys, welcome back to Exceptional Explorers channel. Last time I personally was here, I kind of was talking about how our sensory development really needs to be in check and aligned and regulated if we want strong motor development. So fast forward after I spoke to you guys a little bit about possible ways to improve sense regulation in your children, I wanted to use this episode to talk to you about motor development. So obviously, as soon as our children are born, we think about, are they meeting their milestones? Are they, doing what they're supposed to be doing based on the appropriate timeline? And we always worry that, to make sure that they're on track and that we don't miss any, signs. And obviously, when we go see the pediatrician, they also ask us about, things that they might be doing at any particular point to see if they're on track. So I wanted to just share as an OT some things that I've done with my own children that I think is really beneficial. And if you guys agree or you want to try any of these tips, definitely let us know, because we love to see what everybody's thinking. So one of the best things and the easiest things to do at home is to increase floor time in your infant. Especially with a newborn baby, especially if it's your first baby, I think a lot of parents tend to kind of maybe shy away from floor time because, we want to hold them and we want to cuddle them, and that's great. And babies need that and they love that. I do feel that, according to my opinion, because we have so many carriers now, we have car seats and we have different bouncers and we have just so many places for babies to hang out, that floor time is kind of becoming less and less in every day of an infant's life. And of course, I know that, parents are still doing tummy time and they know the importance of it. But I think people kind of lose the fact that a hard surface is really important. And when we do tummy time with babies on, a couch or a soft surface, it kind of is harder for them to use their muscles, right? Because the surface moves with them and they don't really get the proper feedback that they would get on a nice firm surface. So when my kids were infants, I'd spent a lot of time with them on the floor. The floor is very safe for babies. It's great because obviously they're already on the ground and there's much less chance of rolling over or falling down, an injury. Obviously, you want to put like a soft blanket on the floor and put the baby on top of the blanket. They'll obviously, they're more comfortable like that and they're less cold, and it's just safer if, they roll over and you don't want them to hurt themselves. But floor time on a firm surface is really beneficial to kids in their development. So when babies are born and as they're growing through their first year, we look a lot at them and we want to make sure that they're meeting their motor milestones. And we say that it's usually at the beginning gross motor, right? We say we want them to roll, sit, walk, run, jump, right? And then, fine motor, usually we see things like eating, right? Which is really one of the early fine motor activities, right? They start raking their food and then they start using pincer grasp to grasp those little circle-shaped foods. But the reason why floor time is so wonderful is because it really gives the baby, first of all, different planes where they could look at things. And if you put the baby on their back and they're tracking, they have this wide view of the world, right? And there's so much to catch their attention. I personally love floor time because it really, as the babies get older, it really helps them with a skill called crossing midline. Crossing midline is a very important skill. When we do these kind of motions with our hands, right? When we go across our body, right? Usually with our arms, but with our legs as well, it really kind of excites the brain, and it teaches the brain that, whoa, I don't have to just stay here. I can bring my hands together to center, and all of a sudden, you're improving bilateral upper extremity integration. You're improving both of your hands working together to accomplish a task, right? So if your child is laying on their back, right, and they're visually, because usually reaching for toys, right, before they start to reach, it starts with vision first, right? Something catches their attention, they move their head, and next thing you know, the motivation is, all right, let me use this arm to cross over my body or cross over to get this toy because I really want it, right? So as a parent, you really want to facilitate that. And, if you put toys around their kind of arch of vision, right, and the baby's looking for it, and maybe you're dangling a rattle, right, all of a sudden you're facilitating rolling to the side where you are. So if the baby's here and you're over here and you're dangling, the baby's looking, right? The baby really wants it and they start reaching, right? So that's great, right? It could happen in any surface, but I'd like to do it at floor time because then you could sit down and meet the baby where they're at and really help them kind of find what their bodies can do. When they're doing tummy time, floor time is really, really great because it's easier for them to bear weight and transfer their weight from one side of the body to the other, from the right arm to the left arm, if they're able to do that, right? And it's a firm surface, so they're really doing all of this work, and they get kind of feedback. They push away, and they're learning, hey, my body can do this, right? Rather than kind of maybe the movement being absorbed by a soft cushion, and they have less motion, right? It's just when they're laying down on the floor, right, and they roll from one side to another, again with the vision piece, all of a sudden they have a whole new vantage point. So I really love floor time with kids. I feel like it promotes both gross motor development, which is your big muscles that are doing the work, sitting, running, jumping, and it also helps with your fine motor because it kind of makes you cross midline and use your hands to reach for things, and it excites the fine motor aspect of your development, which is the small muscles in your hand, right? Which is, pincer grasp and holding a pen to a paper, which comes years later, but those skills really, really start really early on. And that development for that really starts early on. And I feel like with fine motor, as an OT, I'm sure, PTs have their own take on, gross motor development. But as an OT, what people refer to us in a school setting because the child is sometimes lacking in fine motor development, right? And maybe they're having a hard time sitting at the tabletop, and maybe, their handwriting is not where their peers are. So a lot of parents, and I'm guilty of this too, especially when they're really young, they're meeting their milestones and we're so happy, and that's great. But we kind of sometimes tend to forget about their fine motor piece until it's necessary, right? Until they need it when they go to school and they're supposed to be writing and they're supposed to be, drawing and coloring. And we're like, well, how are they just supposed to learn this skill out of nowhere if they've never done it before? That's a valid question, right? We're expecting a lot of these preschoolers and kindergartners to come in and have these strong fine motor skills. So my big takeaway from this episode is to really increase the floor time, increase in-hand manipulation as much as you can. Bringing the toy to the mouth is a really, really great learn. Children explore items, right? And that's a great hand-eye coordination task, right? First of all, you're holding, and then you're bringing, the toy to your mouth, and then they're exploring it, right? And at floor time, it's very, very intrinsically motivating because a lot of times they're able to grab it themselves, and eventually, once they're able to succeed at that task, my takeaway is that the best thing you could do to promote gross motor and fine motor development in your child is to promote as much floor time as possible. And then you think, well, okay, my child is already one, and they're running around. What floor time? It's still an important skill to continue crawling through tunnels, puzzles on the floor in crisscross applesauce so that they're crossing midline, finding the puzzle pieces, coloring on the floor, maybe even on a wedge or something, so to work on their core. There are endless possibilities to promote and increase floor time in children through the toddler age into preschool age and even beyond. So if your kiddo loves to do stuff on the floor, as long as it's not in W position, it's great. Promote it. It's really beneficial and really helpful for their overall development. Crafts on the floor, just all of it. And then eventually you transition to tabletop, obviously. So if you guys agree, or you've noticed with your own children that floor time has been helping, or it's more engaging for them, which I find with my own kids sometimes they don't want to engage with something at the tabletop, but they'll love the activity on the floor. Let me know. Let us know. Please drop us a line, and please share if any of these episodes are working for you, or if there's something that you'd like to hear that you think would be interesting or beneficial. Please let us know. We'd love to hear it. Thank you, and see you next week. Bye.